Okay.
She was like really quick.
8:30, I'm going to go ahead and call the
You guys got this. You got it. And
May
they did.
30th, 2025
Get
meeting of the
comfortable
Valley High
with
Operating
that,
Committee
you know.
to order.
Oh, Gloria, take care of
Can I
it.
have a roll call?
Because they came in with the
Van Hoff,
present.
Sullivan,
Here.
Collins,
Here.
Reno, Krager, Kaminsky,
Present.
Shorten.
Here. Okay, item number 2, I need a motion to approve the minutes from the March 28th, March 28th, 2025 meeting. Carl?
I'll make the motion.
Motion. Mr. Collins, second. Any comments, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Public comment. I
See none?
don't think we have any. Member comments?
I got nada.
No member comments. Moving on to the Valley High Administrator's Report.
All right, Tom's comments. I'm going to spend most of our conversation on the public health survey process and the strat plan, so I'm going to kind of gloss over some of the other items. Census and staffing are great. It's actually surprisingly great. Staffing-wise, we have hired, I'll bet you, 35, 40 people in the last 3 months. So the one concern that we always had with the memory care unit, besides just being able to get it open, was can you fully staff it without impacting the other side of the operation? And that requires at least 20 people in addition to what you have on your current team. We've exceeded that, which has been amazing. And I don't know what to attribute that to, other than we do know the college kids coming back do make a difference, but we haven't had to hire a lot of the short-term summer help. So staffing is wonderful. It's one of the few times I can sit here and tell you that, and Gloria knows what that challenge is like. I had my team that deals with the recruitment side come to me yesterday, and I actually missed what she was telling me, and she's like, we're full. And I'm like, great. And I'm not in Tammy's headspace a lot of times when she first starts talking at the doorway. And then I finally clicked in, and I'm like, she was holding the roster of what was available, and there wasn't anything on it. And it's just a really interesting, really nice place to be. Census-wise, we've been running at like almost the seams for the last month or so, which is great because we're about to enter the first of the 2 lull periods during the year. For whatever reason, May, June tends to be June, July tends to be a little bit of a quieter period. May tends to be a little bit heavy. We go into our summer months, it kind of wanes down. Fall, it picks up again, and then you get into the holiday swoon where it's a little bit, referral-wise, it dies down, and then right after the holidays is your really rapid period. So having a full house going into that time frame will make it easier to sustain that census level. Memory care unit-wise, the unit has been approved for occupancy. We are opening on the 23rd. Staff is in place. In fact, they're in the building right now doing training, orientation, helping out on the floors, whatever we can get them doing, while Nick and the activity person that was hired for the unit continue to build programming. So we're ready to go. We would have liked to have opened next Monday, but we did push it back a little bit because of getting our full-time day nurse in place. The candidate that we had selected and was ready to start took a job closer to their house, and we had to start the training and orientation process over. One thing I wanted to mention to you guys with the memory care unit staffing is we're training everybody that will work on that unit to be a certified dementia practitioner. So they will not just have the minimum training to operate a certified memory care unit, but they will have the highest level of training that's possible outside of becoming the trainer. Which our guy Nick, who is our memory care unit director, that was one of the first things we did when he got here, was got him certified to train the CDPs. So yesterday and the day before, they spent 2 days in the classroom going through that training work. So it just kind of speaks to the skill level of what we're going to try to do on this unit, and what we intend to see is the results from the programming side of it. So that's kind of the MCU update. Other than that, on that unit, we just have one final project that needs to get finalized. It does not hold up the actual opening, and that is we have Wander Guard that's going in, which is an additional security system beyond the locked doors and some of the other things on the unit. You look like you're about to ask a question.
Yeah, with your staffing for the memory care, where they're hired at right now is at X pay when they get more
Once they get the CDP.
qualification training.
Yep.
I'm assuming their pay is gonna go up to
By
X.
$1 an hour. Yeah,
How does that affect your bottom line on the budget?
it was already baked in.
Okay.
So we had known that. So there's kind of a couple different levels that we're creating for, let's just use CNAs as an example because it makes it a little bit easier. We have a CNA 1, a CNA 2, and a CNA 3 at this point. A CNA 1 is your basic everyday CNA. They've gone through the CNA course. They can provide care anywhere in the building. Maybe they've had some additional training in dementia care, 4 or 8 hours, which would allow them to work on like a fill-in on the unit. We have a CNA 2. There's 2 individuals. They work right across the hallway here. They are rehab certified. So they run all of the restorative programming. Restorative programming is not therapy, but it's similar to that. And it's more of like therapy is to get you better. Restorative is to maintain. And so they run all that programming. They get a little bit higher level pay. They've got a little bit of additional training. CNA 3 is those that'll be CDPs. So we bring them in at a CNA 1. They get trained up to work on that unit. And then when we run the next CDP training, Certified Dementia Practitioner training, they take it, and then we move them to 3.
Okay.
But I have, when I did the modeling, I baked it all in as everybody's just a 3. So right off the bat. There'll be some savings in there because we're not going to run that training every single month. But,
So that's not gonna affect Scott's model at all then?
well, if anything, it'll just make it a little bit more conservative. Because we're figuring they're walking in the door with that training, and I'm going to tell you right now, very few people are walking in the door with it. So, any other questions on? Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, on the report, on
Yep.
the staffing, would it be possible where you have total staff to break that out between memory care and
Yeah, we can do that.
side of the house? Please. Thank you.
I would have been happy to send that your way.
That's okay.
Thanks, Gordon. Yeah, I can do that.
Thank you, sir.
And we're trying to figure out, from a financial reporting standpoint, how we might also be able to break some of that out as well for you guys. Some of it's pretty easy. Room and board, we know. Staffing, that's pretty simple. Where you get into it being a little bit more of a challenge is the ancillaries, because we have an all-inclusive rate and some of that other stuff. So I'm trying to figure out how to do that. Probably, let's see, our next meeting will probably be July. That would mean I'd have the May report, so we wouldn't have them yet. So it'll probably be not the next meeting, but the meeting after that the financial reports will have it broken out. I just don't know what it'll look like yet.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions about memory care or staffing and census? All right, let's talk public health, and we kind of had a little conversation about it before. So we've been in the public health cycle for the last month. All of it's expected, it's part of the annual process. We had our annual survey. They came out, spent a couple days with us. We filed our plans of correction, and then the state came in and did the life safety code survey, and the gentleman was real rough. Part of it was he was in a rush. He showed up at 11 a.m. and wanted to clear the day. I believe it was a Thursday, and he wanted to clear the day at his normal time, so that puts a little extra pressure. Second part was I was not in the building. I actually had put my car in the shop that day, so there was no way for me to get here, so I was trying to manage the paperwork part from home. Tara was trying to manage the survey process from here, and I got a new maintenance engineer who has not been with us long, and it just was a recipe for disaster. The way that this particular state architect works is if you do not have what he's asking for right that second, he writes it, and then you're supposed to IDR it, which is the informal dispute resolution process, which is unfortunately not a fair process in itself because the state doesn't always read the IDRs you send in. So it's just one of these, don't hate the player, hate the game. So then the next week we had the state architect, different architect, come in and do the occupancy survey for the memory care unit. Then we had our revisit on Tuesday and Wednesday of this week for the annual, and we're gonna have a revisit for the life safety code here coming up real soon. So we're not out of the cycle yet. So the annual for the nursing or the care side, I believe we had 9 areas that were cited. One of the issues that I've had with the state of Illinois for 25 years is the definition of substantial compliance. So the way the law is written, or the regulations are written, is that your facility must maintain substantial compliance with the regulations at all times. Now, in my world, substantial compliance is not perfection. That's substantial. And that's the argument that me and the state have had for 25 years. If you can't find more than one example out of 80 residents, I think we've crossed that threshold of substantial. The state has a different feeling on the matter. So there is a lot of one example citations that are in the survey report. There are 2 of them that I completely disagree with. I thought they were pretty shady, but I did not fight them. And the reason I didn't is because I was holding my powder dry for the life safety code side, because we knew the timing of this. We knew already what the results of the life safety code side were before I filed the plans of correction for the nursing side. So the 2 examples I was referring to was the one about the 2 new resident admits and shower preference and writing it, and then the MedPass audit. And the MedPass audit is just shady pool because it's a matter of numerator and denominator. The more people you see, or the more observations you make, the larger the denominator, the errors are not amplified. What they did this year is, the minute that the error rate crossed the threshold of 5%, and what that was 2 errors. Hand washing, and the nurse touched the pill with her hand and put it into the paper cup rather than it going from the bingo card into the paper cup. They're errors. No one's going to argue that. But all it would have taken is 1 more resident observation and the rate falls below 5%. They killed the MedPass observation right at that point, so they had the citation. Come back this week. They cleared every tag except MedPass, and this time they gave us a 47% error rate. They went and found the agency nurse on her very first shift here, parked on her. She was running behind, and the minute she crossed the window of the MedPass timing, every pill that was passed from that point forward was considered an error, and they didn't do any other observations after that. Shady pool. You get what exactly.
Wow. Yeah, that's, just thinking about that just angers me, because I've seen them do that kind of thing.
And I even asked them, because they got that on Tuesday. Bad enough, they're here at 7:45 in the morning on Tuesday after a 3-day weekend, because they already know no one's here. They can hit the floors before your supervisors can clean them or, pass the word, and they got you behind a barrel. Where's your DON? Well, she'll be here at 9. Okay, well, I need to see her now. She'll be here at 9. That's the kind of the game that gets played. So they had the MedPass concern brought up on Tuesday. They were here on Wednesday. They could have observed a whole other set of nurses. It's all a matter of choice. We even asked them to do that. So they'll be coming back for that. We'll have to redo that plan of correction. I may file an IDR on it. I'm not quite sure. But just to give you an idea of how backwards this process is, the survey team that was here this week asked me why I didn't file an IDR on 2 of the tags from the team before. And I said, well, I didn't think they would be read, which is true. And she's like, that should have never been cited, and that should have never been cited. Well, great. Then why is your team citing it? I mean, we thought it shouldn't have been cited, but irregardless. So on the life safety code side, there was a whole boatload of tags that were related to policies and procedures in the emergency procedure manual. All of them have been IDR'd. All of them but 2. This guy, he's got a preference for how. I'll give you another example, and part of this is so that you can relish in my pain, so I'm not alone. He says that we have a policy: volunteers in an emergency, right? And we will allow our volunteers to do. And he says, well, how are they going to get to your facility? Well, however they can. We'll put that in your policy. Like, he wanted me to write, and this is in our policy now, by car, by bike, by plane, by snowmobile. I mean, every mode of transportation. And he wrote it as being a deficient policy. The reality is, it doesn't matter how the volunteers get here. They're not coming. In an emergency, when S hits the fan, what you have in your building in that moment is who is there. The guy wrote it. I mean, I personally think he was taking it out on, being a little rough on Tara, because he knew that she didn't have the grasp of that manual like I do inside and out. Because what he wants is he calls it out. It's like a old school doctor-nurse relationship. Show me where, show me where, show me where, show me where. It should be, here's the policy, go find it. And so he just basically gets everybody rattled up and then writes everything he can. So I IDR'd a boatload of that. I don't know what the results are on the IDRs. We don't know what the plan of correction, acceptance is on that. We're in a waiting period. Now, I have filed IDRs with the state that were black and white, should have never been cited, and I get the form letter back that says, we reviewed your IDR and we agree with the surveyor in the field. And there was no way they reviewed it, because it was one of those, did you have it, did you not? It was a report for a fire alarm inspection. The inspection was like a day or two before the survey, so I didn't have the report yet. I got the report, sent it in, and they still said deficient. You didn't read it. I mean, it's just clear. So I'm making you no promises that any of what I IDR is going to get read. So we're kind of in the middle of the cycle. The team, I'm going to tell you, is pretty beat up, especially my nursing leaders. They're young as far as the process goes, and they just don't get it. They've come from facilities where they've had good surveys, but they know the care is not at anywhere near the level that it is here, and they're kind of baffled. It's like, welcome to the game. So that's where we're at with the survey. I don't have a full results yet, because I don't know how this recite's going to affect any of the proposed remedies that are in the survey report, whether there's going to be a fine attached to it. I don't know any of that yet. So next month I'll bring you guys up to date on the public health survey drama. Go ahead.
So is it a public facility versus a private? What is I'm trying to figure out the why behind the why.
I would love to know the why behind the why.
Is
it financial?
Yeah.
Right? You go and you break the back of a poor performing facility by rolling them through the mud, you got to relocate those residents.
Right.
The state of Illinois knows which facilities have and which facilities do not. We have to report it.
Mm-hmm.
So is that a reason? I don't know. Is it that the good facilities have the ability to absorb it? I don't know. I have no idea what the rhyme or reason is. I can tell you this, Illinois is a broken regulatory system,
Right.
and the data bears that out. The abuse citations in nursing homes is a perfect example of that. So it's real easy to cite abuse, and then you end up with this handprint on the government website. So if somebody from the public looks up your facility, it's got a giant stop sign with a red hand in the middle that says, warning, this facility has been cited for abuse within the last year. Now, that doesn't mean abuse happened.
Mm-hmm.
It just means that you might have had a policy and procedure breach. You might not have reported within 24 hours. Your investigation might not have been as detailed as they wanted it. It doesn't mean that abuse happened. 29% of Illinois nursing homes have that citation handprint. How is it that other states, most of them are below 10? Maine, 4%. Connecticut, 6%. You mean to tell me that Illinois nursing homes abuse residents more at a higher rate than other nursing homes, or is it the survey process itself? We talked about the $55 million in 1 quarter of staffing fines. We talked about $20 million in survey fines in just the last year. I have no idea, but the survey process in Illinois is broken.
And is it the regulations are more stringent, or the enforcement?
Enforcement. It's enforcement. Interpretation. Right? It's how.
Sometimes it depends on the surveyor too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, because I know that I worked with some that they were just looking for something to write up. They couldn't leave unless they wrote up something.
The funny thing is, it's become almost a given that if 4 walk in, you're getting 4. If 5 walk in, you're getting 5, because everybody gets their 1. So kind of speaking to what you said, when the team walked in on Tuesday morning, we had our morning meeting in here shortly thereafter, and I told everybody in the house, I know exactly who we got. Do not mess around. Plain and simple. You know, and then you get. So I've been doing this for 25 years. 25 years ago, when the surveyors walked in, it was a collaborative process. Day 1, they'd give you end the first day, they would give you a list of things that were a concern, right? And you would have then the next 24 hours to fix it.
Right.
And then they would resurvey it the next day and clear you if you fixed it. So back in the day, you would stay till midnight cleaning things up back at 8 a.m., roll through the day. They would do a new set, you'd run through your survey. Now they wait till the very last day and they just nail you to the wall. You know, and there's no collaboration. There's no, hey, we found this and, you know, let me give you a piece of advice or fix this. You have one example. Fix this one, you know, resident real quick, or go update that record real fast. None of that. The process is completely now done by computer, and the way the computer, it's like, you know, you ask this question to the resident. If the resident says yes or no, it opens up a new set of questions. You follow it down, and it tells you cite this, and cite that. And so it's become very sanitized as far as the person, you know, going back and forth. And then under the new survey process, which you probably caught the tail end of this as you were getting ready to retire, it's all driven by resident and staff interviews. So they go out and they're trained to interrogate. The shower question. You would prefer 2 showers, right? They didn't ask, are you getting the showers as scheduled? You would prefer more, right? Well, of course they're going to say yes. Well, now you write the facility for failure to, you know, honor the residents' preferences. Call light response time. It's another one that's a gimme. No resident, perfect example, you're in the car, you're trying to get to a destination, you have to go to the bathroom, and the next rest stop is like 10 miles down the road. That feels like 50, 100 miles, right? You got to go. Well, when a resident puts on the call light because they have to go to the bathroom, it's the same general principle. They already had to go, so 5 minutes feels like 5 hours. So going and asking a resident with a leading question of they don't answer call lights in a timely manner, do they? That's a real easy no, right? It's not did you get your call light answered. So they sit there and they push you into these areas, and then it becomes a cat and mouse game. Can we prove that they're wrong? The arguments start back and forth. We had a citation for pain management. They took part of the nurse's notes, quoted them in the survey report, that the resident said she was in extreme pain. They did not put, comma, however, after 30 minutes of Tylenol, the pain subsided. They leave that part out, put the one part in, and cite it at a high level of scope and severity because, well, the resident said they were in pain. All of the other context is left out of that citation. Pain management, yes. There was a delay in the fentanyl patch because the doctor didn't sign the order. But that doesn't mean we weren't doing stuff for pain. But when you read that survey report, and you got a copy of it, if you go back and you read it, it looks like we weren't doing our job. That is not true. So it's just a bad system in the way that they apply it.
And is the way that they apply it, is it dictated by Department of Health management or policies, state legislature?
This has been a growing problem for years. So I don't know that you could pin it on, you know, the state, the feds. It's hard to put your finger on it. It's a growing problem.
Yeah,
The only way it gets fixed is from the inside.
right.
It isn't part of the problem because of all the abuse that was going on years and years and years ago within the nursing home community and facilities, and now there's been it's become under the, you know, the microscope that it's become, and, you know.
That's part of it.
There's a fear around being the inspector who inspects the facility, that later on, something comes out about that facility, and they get dragged through that. So there's a, you know, 30 years ago when you know, abuse really started getting reporting, and families started paying more attention to what was going on and happening, and things along those types of lines. That's driven a lot of this. And then you compound it here in Illinois with what's happened with DCFS and everything else. I'm sure there's a heightened sense of, I don't want to be the guy who didn't do do something and then something happens.
That actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, just think it through. And, one of the things is that, I know going through hundreds of audits in the previous career, on your side, not in the health industry, but within refineries and things along those types of lines, there's a whole philosophy that started developing out of this was to move away from sitting down each day and reviewing, giving opportunities to fix things, because you're not necessarily fixing the process, you're fixing that issue at that point in time. And there was a philosophy that started to develop about, we wait to the end, and these are the problems you have, and now you've got to come up with a way to, and we want to know that they're actually fixed and not fixed today, and the problem will be back a week from now. And that's one of the things, and it's an imperfect science, but that's one of the things that started driving a lot of changes in inspection procedures and inspection processes. Was that kind of that concept? Because you really, part of the reason for the inspections and doing these types of things is you want to make sure the process is being followed every day, every minute of every day, and they're not being followed, but we fix it today and then it's going to come back tomorrow. And it presents challenges because people are human. People are going to make simple mistakes, but it's always that adage: it's simple mistakes that start to add up, and they create bigger mistakes.
The only thing I'll push back on you on is that in long-term care, we have what's called quality indicators. Those are a reflection of everyday care.
Sure.
And we are required to submit that data to the state and the federal government on a quarterly basis. That tells you what your facility is. If you're running at a 5-star in quality indicators, then there should be no reason you're running at a 2 or 3 on the survey side.
Oh, I would agree. So there's I'm not defending or condoning.
No, I'm just saying.
There's a disconnect someplace between those two things. I'm just saying from a surveyor standpoint, there's this philosophy in how they go about doing things that didn't exist, 20, 25 years ago.
I believe that. They are constantly using the excuse that the feds are coming behind them.
Isn't there?
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Mr. Collins.
I was just going to say, quite frankly, it's probably going to get worse because of what's happening with the budget bills and everything else, and the effect it's going to have on Medicare money, and what the state's going to be able to do, and things like that. So, this idea of fines, I don't know where that money goes. Maybe it goes back to help pay for things.
I'd love to know where that money goes. Could use a little bit.
I think the challenge is going to become more so in the next few years.
I do agree with that.
I think the question that was asked is this something that's unilaterally applied to all nursing homes, or is it because Valley High is a certain situation, you get a higher level of scrutiny versus maybe another home that is maybe not as well-to-do or successful, and they're a little bit more lenient? Because I guess that would raise a serious concern too about the disparate treatment of facility to facility. And I think that, you make some really good points, Mr. Collins, about, the inspector's mind and not wanting to overlook something that can turn out to be tragic. I mean, that's very fair because that can fall back on, that individual. But as long as they're doing it exactly the same way with the same perspective to each facility, then you can't argue that. You can't complain about that. Well, you can complain that, it's, but if it's, if we're recognizing or if we get wind that Valley High has a higher level of scrutiny or the microscope is focused more versus another facility, then that's cause for concern. And I guess the question is, if that were to occur, which regulatory agency would then be accountable for that, for disparate treatment?
Well, what's disappointing is that you mentioned the IDRs. That's a way for a facility to challenge what an inspector saw at the particular moment in time. And to me, if they're, I won't I have trouble faulting an inspector for saying, okay, the person took it from the card, put it in their hand, and put it in the thing. You're not supposed to do that. So I'm going to write that up. But if your IDR explains what took place, what happened, and it makes sense, the fact that the state's not then looking at that shouldn't be the inspector's judgment. That should be someone looking at that IDR saying, oh, okay, yeah, we got to get rid of that one. This makes sense here now. If that part of the process is broken, then that's really troubling.
The IDR process is, there's 2 rows you can go down. You can go down the desk review road, which is that you ask the state of Illinois to review it, Or you could go down the MPRO road, which is you pay the state of Illinois to have it reviewed.
What?
Right?
Say that again?
There's two ways to file an IDR.
Okay.
Bribe them, or?
You can pay a third-party reviewer that is contracted with the state of Illinois to review it, and they will render a third-party opinion, and it's not cheap. Or you file it directly with the state of Illinois for a desk review, and it may or may not get read.
Well, I was gonna ask, do you not have any liaison or patient advocate or someone that's detailed that, hey, I can go to, here's our problems, can you help me out?
Yeah, that's the associations. There's 3 associations in the state of Illinois that represent long-term care and that lobby and do that work. I've been the president of one of them now for years. This is not a new issue, and we've been fighting this issue tooth and nail. Well, I've been on the board of Illinois Healthcare for 20 years in some capacity. Right now I'm the president. We've been fighting this for 20 years. It has not gotten better.
And so when you're bringing these issues forward, who are you bringing them to?
Public health.
The head of public
Yeah.
health, or?
Yeah.
And what's their general feedback? Response, non-response? It's the way it is.
This is the way it is.
And then sometimes they have themes, you know, they have certain years where they're like on to one thing.
Right.
You know, because they maybe had an egregious incident.
Sure.
And so they're looking for it everywhere next time.
Right.
Or there are facilities, you are familiar with them, that, I mean, they're always getting IJs and that kind of thing. They target them. I mean, they go there because, you know, they've had problems before. So you see some of that. But I had some really good relationships with some of them. I have one, and you know, most of them are nurses, are still are nurses, you know. So they're always hard on med passes. They really are hard on that. They look at that, and if there's anything wrong at all with that, they're going to cite you on 2 things: dietary and med pass.
That was the other area. They were all over us
Oh,
like
yeah.
crazy on dietary. And they were giving the baker a hard time. She was bagging bread, and they're like, you didn't date that. You just made it. You know, I tell my team this all the time, and I have to tell myself this in the car on the way home every time. Don't hate the player, hate the game. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
And we operate within this. It's been this way forever. I really don't believe that it's going to change before I retire. We just work through it. Illinois is just harder on the long-term care sector than other states. Whatever reason that is. I do agree that there probably is a little bit of what you were saying to it, as far as you don't want to be that one. But
Well, the scrutiny today, just with social media and information and things like that, and you go on websites at the state level, all that stuff's out there. So, you're an inspector out there, and now, and rightly, rightly, wrongly, whatever you want to argue, I'm not going to get into all that, but, now, people are being charged criminally, inspectors and things like that for things that they did or didn't do or should have thought, didn't thought, whatever the case may be. So I think all that kind of stuff is work, unfortunately, can work for the system and work against the system.
Yeah.
Both.
And our state regs are harder too. When I was taking the state test, because everybody takes the federal test, so you can go legal with that. But we had a couple of people in the prep class from Wisconsin, and one of them had already taken the Illinois state test and failed it. He was back again. He was like, "It's so hard. It's so hard." And I said, "It's not harder. It's just different."
I didn't pass it the first time. I'll be the first one to admit that. I only know one guy
Yeah.
that passed it the first time.
The Illinois state?
Yes.
Oh, I did.
I know two.
Yeah.
He did say guy.
Yeah. I did.
Now I know two.
But now by the time I took the federal test, they had 2. Like the administrator that was there before me, she came in, there was one state test, one federal test. So when I took it, they had 2. So it was like, wow, and it was like they could have combined, they had some new codes, they could have easily combined it in the one federal test. And I said, why didn't they do that? And someone looked at me like, Gloria, you have to pay more money for that second test, you know, it was like a money generator.
So one last question, observation, then we can move along.
Yep.
You mentioned the quality of care scores.
Quality
contrasted-
indicator.
Quality indicators contrasted with survey results. Is there any sort of, or something that could be assembled that would show that dichotomy on a home-by-home basis?
Oh, yeah, you can, it's publicly available.
Okay,
In fact, I do that on a regular basis just to know my competitors.
yeah,
So I'll go on the Nursing Home Compare website, and I do this more for staffing than anything, because I know where our quality is compared to everybody, but I'll put a 25-mile pin,
yeah,
and then I will go through and get the staffing ratios of every building within that 25 miles. And it has overall survey, staffing, RN staffing, weekend staff. I mean, all that data is publicly available.
Okay.
So yeah, you can see it.
okay. So you have a report or something that you've done recently that you can share?
Well,
You can go online.
I can get you something, yes.
Okay,
Um,
no rush, but.
But yeah, if you, for the next meeting, I'll put together kind of a little, I'll give you a little summary of the market.
Okay. Thank you,
It'll be good for my team too,
yes.
because we use that stuff all the time.
Okay,
Can I talk strat plan real quick?
Please.
And then I will turn the meeting over to you guys.
Okay.
So in your packets, I have given you guys the Valley High strategic plan. So for those of you that are newer to Valley High's, what I kind of do every 2 years is my team and I sit down, we lock ourselves in a room for a couple days, and we hammer out what is our strategic plan. Now, when you look at the first page of that, you're going to see that the revision date is loaded up with X's, because there hasn't been a revision yet, but you will see multiple versions of this document, because I will update it as things are getting done and as things evolve. So this is kind of our report card. You guys will get a copy of this. I'm not going to promise quarterly, but a couple times a year, you will get a version of it that's updated with where we're at. Here's how this gets developed. All my leaders and I, we always have a theme. This year's theme is a new path forward, and then we start building from there. The main categories are always the same, and then all of the different task items on there. So we throw everything at the wall, end the session, wait a week, come back, and then we start defining what each thing means, and then we end that session, then we come back a week later, and then we assign responsibility. And then that way we've gotten 3 different looks at it. We know that we can commit to what we say we're going to do. Along with that is every year I put my leadership team through a specific training with a specific focus that, 1, ties back to the strategic plan, and 2, ties into some of the things that we're experiencing in the building. So this year's focus, which is kind of what you see on the last page, is a book called The Truth About Employee Engagement by Patrick Lencioni. It's an amazing book, but really what it hones into is how to make your team feel appreciated and like they're contributing to the greater whole. That's our focus for this year. I bring that up because one of the things that we would like to do, and it's going to come before you at some point, whether it's through a resolution or through the budget, is we have a gentleman that works for us that has got an amazing communication and demeanor, and he's kind of started sliding into this role of customer service. And we've been trying to figure out a way to enhance the customer service program and the employee recognition program and try to really reset the culture for this new generation of workers. A couple months ago, I went out to Lutheran Communities, and I met with, there was a bunch of administrators there, but after everybody left, I met with their executive director of their entire organization. And one of the things that I wanted to talk with her about was their employee recognition program, but it was more than just, awards and whatnot. They have an individual that is dedicated. That's all they do is promote and train and work on this. They call it their life community promise. But I'm stealing a lot of elements from that. I think there's something to be said for having someone that's dedicated to just focusing on making sure all of those little things are happening. So I'm going to be developing a position, and I titled it in my administrator's report wrong, so I have to correct the record. I said that the title that we were looking at was going to be, where is it? Culture and Community Experience Coordinator. It's actually Culture and Client Relations Coordinator. So this would be kind of a growth from where he's already in the admissions coordinator position and kind of backs up all of that, but we're going to kind of slide that over and grow that position a little bit. So you'll be seeing that in the coming months. So you'll notice that the strategic plan, big focus is on enhancing the employee experience. I would argue that we have an amazing culture here already, but some of my older team are having a hard time adapting to some of these younger professionals. So it's going to be a big focus over the next 2 years. And with that, I'll either answer questions or get out of the way.
Any questions?
I got nada.
What was the title again?
Culture and Client Relations Coordinator.
How's the staff recovering after the Tuesday morning event?
Well, other than feeling a little beat up and abused, they're fine.
They're bouncing back, right?
They bounce back fast. I mean, unfortunately, this is normal.
Yeah.
You know, so for most of them, it's like old hat. Okay, more training. Pharmacy, like, we knew the citation on Wednesday was going to be the pharmacy thing. Pharmacy was here doing training yesterday morning so we could stop the clock. And I mean, they know it's just a process.
Yeah.
So they'll be okay.
Good.
They'll be a lot better once we get memory care open and we can stop talking about this giant idea and it's now a reality.
Right.
I think it's causing a little bit of stress in the building.
Okay. Nothing else. Move on to the routine consent agenda. Any items? We have one item.
Like to pull it.
Okay.
Discussion.
We're going to pull the item from the consent agenda. Being no other items, can I have a motion and a second? We can open discussion. I got a motion from Mr. Kaminsky, second from Mr. Collins. Mr. Collins, you have the floor.
So, I did leave a message for Tom Sullivan, but I had not heard back from him yet, so you may know the answers, so.
I'll do the best I can.
So, one of the line items from, Presidio has the word lease in it. Well, I apologize, it doesn't have the word lease, it says 460 months. Are we, and the resolution doesn't mention anything about leasing anything, so it's line 17. I don't know if it's a typo but it's for,
Line 17 on Presidio,
yeah,
Catalyst. Oh, I'm on the wrong line.
line 17. It says, SNTC-24X7X4 Catalyst 9344 UPOE.
The only thing I can think of is that's the licenses.
Okay.
Because we are not renting anything. All of the equipment,
Yeah, it looked like everything was being purchased.
yeah.
So that's why when it said for 60
But I'm wondering
months-
if you look at, there's that grayed out bar, and then everything below that looks like licensing.
Okay, all right. So, like I said, I got a call on the Tom to get clarification. I just wanted to make sure, because the resolution doesn't say anything about that. The other question I had was, I forget if it was in this meeting, or it might have been in finance, I apologize. There's talk, right now, it's all wireless out here, right?
Well, wait, we gotta make sure we're talking about the same thing. Are you talking about my internal, how the building operates,
No,
or?
you're from outside.
That's what I thought you were talking about, okay.
Is there a line here?
Yeah, there is a hard line that comes in, and then there's a, it's not Skynet, what is the one that Elon has?
Yeah, Sky.
Skylink.
Starlink.
Starlink.
And then Starlink is our backup.
Okay.
So there is a Wi-Fi component, but that's the secondary piece of it.
Okay, so this is all Wi-Fi just for inside the building?
Yeah,
updating-
that's kind of comes after that point.
Right, and one of the problems we've had out here is keeping connectivity, correct?
Well, there's a couple different issues. That is a separate topic that we are working on. So we also are on the same line as DOT.
Right.
And so, I don't remember all of the numbers, but there's not enough bandwidth
Correct.
coming across so that when there is a high volume situation, DOT is having connectivity issues. We are not.
Okay,
But the problem is, we're the cause of DOT's problems,
okay,
all right? Because we get the bandwidth first, and we suck it all up, and then they get what's left over.
okay.
So the one specific example that I think you're referring to is there was a storm response event, and they were having trouble connecting because of the Wi-Fi, and we were in a high volume period of time, so the timing of it was really bad.
Right, so we talked about them bring a line out here, it'd be like $1 million or something. It's kind of a rough number thrown about that. I don't want people to
Yes.
say, well, it's gonna be $1 million, like, that was a rough
Yep.
number. Well, this law will work with?
Yes, because
that.
this is happening after it comes into the building,
Okay,
and then it gets distributed. This is the
Okay.
distribution piece.
okay, so whatever we bring here eventually someday, we won't be coming back and saying,
No.
oh, no, we gotta spend $100,000 to add this piece. Okay, perfect. That
No,
was-
and I'm gonna tell you that this is overkill. And this is, I mean, they were gonna go for overkill. And I'm like, you guys gotta be kidding me, right? You know, there's a device every 6 feet. But I do understand that the more and more devices that get added on, the harder and harder it is.
Yeah.
Every resident that comes through that front door now has got one, more than likely two devices. They've got
Sure.
their phone, and they've got their tablet, and a lot of them have the watch. So now you brought 3 devices that are connecting in. Doctors, all of them. So I mean, I get it. We have dark spots, but no, that's a separate project that we are actively having
Okay.
conversation.
Just wanna make sure those two things. Okay,
Yeah, if I could actually just touch upon that since it was brought up. So we did have some conversations about an alternative solution to basically the connectivity from, the county campus to here.
right.
And there are some solutions, some very expensive solutions, one of which could be the county footing the bill to run the fiber from the campus to here. But we're still waiting to see what happens with the BEADS funding.
Right.
Because we know that opportunity at someday will come to fruition, and that may provide then, the infrastructure in the ground at, another cost rather than the county, so we can be able to utilize and take advantage of that. So we're still kind of watching that, but as you've been hearing about the BEADS funding, it's been very slow for the county. The previous distributions went to other areas. I don't have an update as to when that may be coming to us, but that could be the opportunity to resolve that just overall connectivity issue.
Yeah, because this area is in one of those areas that could get that funding, because if I'm saying that right, because there's not enough bandwidth out here.
Correct, that's our understanding, yep.
Okay.
So we think it's a good contender.
Right, good, okay. Perfect.
So, and that would also tie into the resident televisions and stuff like that. So if we bring Comcast out here, which is the fiber,
Yeah.
we would be switching off of satellite, which would also be another change for the residents. But
Sure.
every 5 years, we got to put new equipment in, which is a huge expense for for the facility. If we get to connectivity, we don't have to do that.
Right,
So,
okay. That was all the questions I had.
Okay. Anyone else? Roll call.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Collins.
Yes.
Van Hoff,
Yes.
Kaminsky,
Yes.
Horton.
Yes. Number 7.1, discussion of resolution authorizing a contract with Growchy, is that right?
that is right.
Growchy Industries to replace the kitchen walk-in freezer. It's a discussion.
And the reason it's a discussion is this work was already done. One of those kind of weird situations. So when we did the budget for last year, we put in a supplemental request to replace the 2 units, the motors in the freezer and the cooler. So we already had planned on doing the work. We had slotted it for midsummer-ish to get the work done. We had one of the units go down. We called the service guy out. He came out and was able to bypass a switch to keep it running, but it was like, okay, we're not waiting till midsummer to get the work done. It's got to go now. So the timing of it missed the operating committee meeting, so we took it straight to finance and through the county board that way. But I had made a promise that I would come back before you guys and at least just explain to you what happened, why we did it the way we did, why it didn't follow the normal process. The way we ended up having to do this and coordinate it on the fly is we brought in a refrigerated box truck, and we moved all the food from inside to this box truck, and we ran out of a box truck for a couple, like a week, a little over a week, and then brought everything back in. So operations maintained the way they were. In the end, we lost about $1,500 worth of food. Obviously we run the motto, if in doubt, throw it out. But back up and running, everything is perfect now. We were blessed by Ryder. The invoice they sent over did not fully charge what we expected for the rental. Don't know why, but they didn't charge us for so the work got done on Friday morning, and we were like, just run it through the weekend, come back on Monday morning. If it's held the temps, bring the food in. They didn't charge us for the weekend. They didn't charge us for fuel. They only charged us for 1 mile, and they brought the truck to us and then picked it up and brought it home. I mean, they were really generous. So I wanted to just mention that out loud, that, we needed them in the jam. They came through in a jam, and then they did as well. So we're back up and running. But it was just a matter of, I wanted to make sure you guys understood why it didn't come to you first.
Sure.
When we called and asked about, that was the other reason. When we called and asked about the service, they were like, well, we have the parts now. So that's kind of the reason why we said we're going now. So it's all done.
Hey, the side question, sorry. Do you have to throw out food often?
No, I mean, we will throw food out that hasn't been eaten after a period of time. One of the reasons we do a lot of scratch cooking is because then you can start using, be smart about your cooking. If you cook chicken for lunch today, chicken noodle soup for dinner tomorrow, right?
Right.
That's how you maximize your kitchen. So we try not to throw out food. And I assure you, those kitchen staff are probably eating a little bit of that before it gets thrown out too.
So we don't need a vote?
No,
Okay.
no, it's just this is what we did.
Discussion items, meeting schedule for the rest of 2025.
So Pete put that on there.
Yeah.
I think there was some chatter about going to every other month, or at least setting a little bit more of a relaxed schedule now that the memory care unit will be opening.
Right.
So I've set the table, and now it's my turn to get out of the way.
Okay. Any thoughts, opinions on that?
I just want to make sure if we schedule meetings, we meet.
Yeah. We've had a couple
My-
that canceled.
Well, yeah, I'm not trying to be a jerk, my calendar is really packed.
Sure.
And so when I schedule something in and then it cancels, it's time I could be using to do something else. If we're gonna do every other month, I just want to, we're gonna make sure that everybody knows I need to be here every other month, at the meeting. I know stuff comes up, I mean,
Sure.
it's gonna happen here and there, but there's 7 of us, so it should always be able to do 4 this
Right.
year. So,
I'm good with, you wanna have it every month, you wanna have it every other month, I'm fine with whatever direction you wanna go.
I mean, in terms of what we need to review and approve, we've had months where there hasn't been, or there's been a limited amount.
Now, my resolution stuff kind of comes in cycles, right? You're going to get a big cycle of it right around October. That's all the new contracts for the next year. Right after the first of the year, you kind of clean up some of the ones that didn't go through that first batch, so you get the rest of your contracts approved. Then there's a lull.
Okay.
And then sometimes mid-year, we start talking a little bit about adjusting employee compensation based on the market, things like that. But for the most part, the big rush is at the beginning and the end of the fiscal year.
Okay. So if we move to an every other month cycle, so we'd be skipping June, July, September, November, January. Does that make sense and fit in with?
Well, it'd be let's see.
You wouldn't be skipping June and July.
I'm sorry. No, I want to.
You mean July,
You mean July,
you mean September,
September,
and then,
November, and then January.
so we would just have to agree that in July, it would be, I don't know, or September would be too late to do budget, right? Hang on.
You'll be skipping June 27th, your next one will be August 1st.
Right,
So then you would want to schedule your budget review for
August 1st.
August 1st.
That's what I was,
And then October 3rd and December 1st, but keep in mind, December ones are typically canceled.
So as long as we agree that budget is the August 3rd, did I say that right?
August first.
August
First.
1st, and we approve budget at that point, that'll give us enough time to have everything queued up for the next meeting.
I'll
We could-
dial in for that meeting.
We can make that work.
Okay.
Yeah, and if there's,
The
say,
next meeting would be August first then, with budget.
My team's gonna start budget the week after next. So I'll have it ready by first week of July. That gives us time to meet with county administration. We can make that timeline work.
Okay.
So the remaining 3 of the year would be August first with budget, October 3rd, and December 1st.
Maybe 10-3 we do your model. Because we'll have a little bit of knowledge of memory care and what that's gonna do with some of our numbers.
yeah, we should have a better picture.
Yep. And then that sets the stage for budget in 12-1. Okay.
I feel like we have a consensus on that.
Works for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if there's anything pressing that comes up that needs a resolution, it would still go through likely finance and audit through the committee at all. And I think what Tom can do is just report out to you if an item is coming forward that's, it's in between meeting cycles, just let you know what's going on the agenda and give you a little explanation, so.
I mean, Greeno and I are on finance, so
So you'll,
we'll know some of the history of why something may come up or something like that as well.
And I'll send you a separate email, updating on the public health stuff when that's clear, so you don't have to wait until October to hear that stuff too.
Now, when keeping in mind when we're creating the committee structure for next year, will we be doing every other month for next year as well?
I would expect so. I think there's probably gonna be other conversations about whether we need to continue to have this as a separate, committee.
That doesn't involve me, I
Yeah.
don't know.
Or talk about it at the October 3rd and see how it's gone, blowing off July to have in August, and if we can not see the future, but see, yeah, that could work every other month, or, maybe not. Or to December to make that decision,
Sure.
where you've got some
Yeah,
trial.
yeah. Background. Okay,
Cool.
all right, fair enough. Future topics, we have,
I got 2 on mine,
summary of the market.
and staffing broken out.
Okay.
Yep.
Anything else?
I think budget's gonna be a big topic.
Yep.
So, for the budget, how do you want me to present that to you guys? Are you looking for a PowerPoint presentation? Do we want to just dig into the numbers?
Last year, you were boom, boom, boom,
I put a little PowerPoint together.
and it was, this is where we're at, this is what we're gonna need, let's
Okay,
go.
So just do it the same?
That seemed to go real quick, and then Scott backed you up with the model, and
Well, let's remember that we have, one new, one returning, and 2 new, 1 returning.
So put a little detail in there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I can do that.
You may, you maybe wanna, and I don't know how you would do this, so.
Oh, I love a challenge.
You may wanna do some considerations of what you think may happen in Medicare reimbursement rates and Medicaid reimbursement rates in the, next, in the new fiscal year.
Okay.
Because everything I'm reading is, even though it's not being touched, there's $800 billion coming out of there, and, the states spend the money, the state's gonna have to decide what they're gonna, how they're gonna make up some of that difference. So, I forget what the numbers were on his sheet right now, they were pretty high for the reimbursement rates. I'm guessing they're gonna fall,
Yeah.
so,
Somewhere along the way, the county nursing home rate's gonna fall.
yeah.
We know that we're getting a very nice Medicaid rate at this
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
Somewhere along the way, they're gonna adjust that down to the norm with everybody else.
Yeah.
So that's an unknown known, you know what I mean?
Right, but you might be able to do a scenario that says, educationally wise, we think it might do this.
Yeah, I could definitely put together, one of the things I had done in the past, and I can do it, is just challenges on the horizon and just list them out. What may or may not happen.
Yeah.
And that's already incorporated into the model, so if we know it changes in a year or two, we can
Right.
adjust it and the model will take that into account.
You did that last year's model too, because you had, scenario A,
Yep.
scenario B, scenario C. If we did this, this is what that did.
Yeah, I'll run it out for you guys. So, that won't be a problem. I got 2 months to put it together. Nothing will happen between now and then.
Oh, I don't believe you said that.
Well, we're starting the budget process with the cow, well, finance next week and the cow 2 weeks from there, so you're gonna knock on your door.
It's amazing we're even talking about that.
Yeah.
So, all right, before you guys wrap, one last thing. The annual picnic is on the 21st. You are all welcome to join us.
First of
June. We're going to do it in the spring instead of the fall. So now that we are 5 years past the start of COVID, we have a pretty good idea of what Valley High's cycles are for when COVID rears its ugly head. September is a bad month for us, so we are no longer doing picnic in September. We've canceled the last two. We're going to go with June. So, June 21st, the picnic. We're going to have all kinds of different events going on that day. It goes food at 11:30 and probably goes to about 2-ish. It's not an all-day event. By then, the residents are pretty worn out. But you guys are welcome to come out, bring your families if you want, food and live entertainment, all that kind of stuff.
Very nice.
You said 11:30?
Starts at 11:30. Yeah, I should mention, I put a flyer on the back of your packet so you have the details.
Yeah, I saw that.
No need for executive session, so we just need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make-
Carl, second by Mr. Sullivan. All those in favor? Any opposed?